I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting where we will review the action items that will be formally addressed on next Tuesday, June 6th already, 2023, right here at City Hall at 6 p.m. We will have a work session immediately thereafter, but I'll call upon Mr. Bill Burr, our city manager, to review those action items. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. You will have two guests at your meeting that evening. Jeff Carr with Hot Springs Friends of the Park will be here to present a check to the city, as well as Mr. Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and Hot Springs Metro Partnership, will be here to deliver his economic development report. Moving on to your consent agenda, consider Resolution R-23-104, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for April 2023, and our Assistant Finance Director, Renee Burr, will present.
The April financial statements are complete and will be in your board packet. We request your acknowledgement of receipt.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-23-105, a resolution amending the 2023 budget for increased cost for District Court. Again, Renee.
The City of Hot Springs shares the cost of 3 district court bailiffs who are employed by the Garland County Sheriff's Department. The Garland County Quorum Court passed Ordinance O-2317 on May 8, 2023 to provide a salary increase for all Sheriff Department officers. The amount of increased cost to the City of Hot Springs budget for our share of these raises is $6,777.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-23-106, a resolution adding certain water and wastewater assets into the Hot Springs Municipal Utility Water and Wastewater System Fixed Asset Registry, and our city engineer, Gary Carnahan, will discuss this item.
Good afternoon. So we'll have in your packet a list of 10 water and sewer line extension projects to ask you to accept those into the city assets for maintenance. They total about $872,000 worth of water and sewer projects, but most of all of that is tied up in 3 big projects: the Lakeside School water and sewer main additions, and 2 subdivisions, one Waymaker Way on Lakeshore Drive and the Williams Row commercial subdivision that's just been stubbed in off of Higdon Ferry for a future medical clinic area. So
those improvements were paid for by the developer or
Yes, sir.
property owners, and then we're going to assume responsibility from there on.
yes, sir.
Thank you. Any
Okay.
further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-23-107, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a grant application for certain Federal Transit Administration American Rescue Plan Act apportionments authorized by 49 U.S.C. 5307, Urbanized Area Grant Program for the Hot Springs Intracity Transit, and our Deputy City Manager, Lance Spicer, will present that item.
Yes, good afternoon. As stated, these are American Rescue Plan funds. The funding allocation that came to the through FTA to the transit system is $275,195. This was the second allocation that the transit system received. These funds are unique in that they don't actually have a local match requirement. Usually there's an 80%, a 20% local match for capital funding, and then a 50-50 on operating. These funds are absent of that requirement, so they're very much the same as that first allocation that we got early in 2021 through the rescue plan, which was about 2.2 million. So these funds that we're asking for to make allocation, we have them allocated. We'd like to make the application to Federal Transit to actually draw those down, and I'll kind of explain a little further on what we intend to use those funds for on the next item.
Any questions of Lance on this item? Thank you, Lance.
Next, we have Resolution R-23-106, resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a grant application for fiscal year 2023 with the Federal Transit Administration for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 USC 5307, Urbanized Area Grant Program for Hot Springs Intercity Transit. Lance?
Yes, and now these are the funds that you're probably more used to seeing me bring to you for application and approval. These are our 5307 apportionments. That's generally what we use for the operation of the transit system. That's the bulk of that operating and capital assistance. The allocation, excuse me, that has come to the city through FY23 is $991,313. Now these funds do have that local match requirement, 20% local and for capital purchases, 50-50 operating. The intent is to use the federal funds I spoke about before, that 275, to use those for our local match. So that'll essentially free up some monies from the general fund and use the bigger 5307 2023 funds for the operation of the transit system, and any remaining funds from that 275 from the previous item, we will likely be purchasing a paratransit van, kind of couple those with some prior year grant funds that we still haven't drawn down to make that purchase. But this is our usual FY23 5307 apportionment.
Any questions of Lance on this topic? Yes, Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Lance, can you share with us again the code for those matches? 80-20 and then 50-50?
Yeah, 80-20 is for capital purchase, bus facility type things, and then it's 50-50 on those operating and preventative maintenance expenses.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R23-109, a resolution approving a contract for services with JPJ Consulting for public relations and strategic consulting services. And again, Lance.
Yes, the city issued a statement of qualifications for professional services for public relations and strategic communication services back in March. At the closing of that deadline, we received 3 statements. Those were from Jordan P. Johnson Consulting, Mangan Holcomb Partners, and Toma Toma. Those are all public relation firms there in Little Rock. City staff evaluated the statements of qualifications submittal. JPJ Consulting, Jordan Johnson Consulting was the highest rated firm. JPJ Consulting is no stranger to the board. I think he's facilitated several of the board retreats and several times, but we've contracted with JPJ Consulting since 2017. This proposed new agreement would have a 1-year term with 4 additional renewals upon mutual consent of the board and JPJ Consulting. The contracted amount on a monthly retainer is $4,400. That's approximately a 10% increase from the prior year contract. So the annual expense previously was $48,000. It increases to $52,800 for those services. And as I said, JPJ Consulting has assisted the city across essentially all departments: utilities, police, fire, city manager, etc. They've also assisted the city with the employee satisfaction and engagement survey that was conducted, I believe, about 3 years ago. But obviously JPJ wishes to continue the agreement and bringing it before the board for your consideration.
Any questions of Lance? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R23-110, a resolution approving the purchase of a prefabricated restroom for Velocity Park, Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail from CXT Inc. and LB Foster Company pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $96,456.14. And our Parks and Trails Director, Anthony Whittington, will discuss the item.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow, members of the board. Between fiscal years 2022 and 2023, Community Development Block Grant funding was allocated to place a restroom at Velocity Park along the Hot Springs Creek Greenway Trail with a drop-in-place prefabricated unit similar to those you see at other parks. This CDBG project was eligible and requested by Parks and Trails Department, was reviewed and recommended by the CDAC following public discussion. Restroom is available through manufacturer CXT Incorporated and LB Foster Company through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program for $96,456.14, which includes tax, placement, and delivery. This will be funded in two parts. We have $72,977.76 from CDBG, and we have a generous donation from Hot Springs Friends of the Parks for $23,478.38, and that's the donation you see at the top of your agenda. This is the exact same bathroom, if you want an example, the exact same one. It's at David Watkins Park, same blueprint, same exact bathroom, two-door drop-in place with the chase in the back, and it does have a heater in the back for the wintertime, so we don't have to winterize it, nothing like that. So it's pretty maintenance-free once we, except for cleaning purposes. So,
Any questions of Anthony? And these are indestructible?
to a point. To a point. Go ahead, sir.
It is our only second bathroom on the Greenway, correct?
Correct. And this will service two parks and a trail. So the skate park currently has a porta potty, so the skate park users will have an actual restroom, Velocity Park, and then it'll be a pit stop for the Greenway Trail. Before 5 o'clock, people can use the restroom at the transportation depot if they park there to use the Greenway. But after 5 o'clock in August, there's 4 hours of daylight and only one bathroom for almost 4 miles of trail. So this would definitely be beneficial for our Greenway users. So,
Very good. Any further questions? Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-23-111, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of grant funding for the continuation of the State of Arkansas Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, or STEP. And our Chief of Police, Mr. Harvington, will present the item.
Yes, thank you, sir. The Police Department is asking the board to consider this resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of the fiscal year 2024 Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, also known as the STEP grant. The grant is administered by the Arkansas Department of Public Safety through the Highway Safety Office. Since 1998, the Hot Springs Police Department has participated in the STEP grant. The goal of the project is to decrease the number of traffic-related vehicle accidents and fatalities by conducting specific traffic enforcement operations in the city of Hot Springs and Garland County, such as DWI, seatbelt, distracted driving, and speed enforcement. These enforcement activities are important to overall motorist safety and are also part of a larger nationwide effort and mobilization with programs such as Click It or Ticket. The grant provides funding to reimburse 80% of overtime, personnel cost, and fuel vehicle maintenance specific to the enforcement activities and requires the city to match the remaining 20%. It also funds traffic enforcement related equipment such as radar units and portable breath testers, along with providing funding for child safety seats. The equipment related expenditures require no match from the city. The Hot Springs Police Department's total budget request for the 2024 STEP grant will be $137,292. Of that, $129,754 is related to personnel cost, fuel, and vehicle maintenance. The rest of the request is allocated to equipment in the way of child safety seats, portable breath testers, Guardian Angel lights, which are a little small strobing light that officers wear on their uniform to alert motorists of their presence, and traffic control baton lights, also used by officers when directing traffic in low light situations. The fiscal impact to the city will be $29,950 if we are awarded our full request. That money is already budgeted into our annual overtime budget costs. You will have the STEP grant budget request form in your packet along with the COA. I'm happy to answer any questions you might
questions
have.
of Chief? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll make the board aware over the next 5 items that we're about to talk about. They're all on consent currently. If it's the board's pleasure, we can move those to new business. It is about $17 million total for the next 5 items, and all of those have to do with our water supply project. First one is Resolution R-23-112, a resolution authorizing a contract for professional engineer services with Brown Engineers LLC for the SCADA system and integration at the water treatment plant on Randall Road. This contract's in the amount of $671,743. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, is here to discuss the item.
Good afternoon. This is an integration contract with Brown Engineers for our brand new water plant. It may seem early, but they're going to be designing, engineering, manufacturing and programming the main, control panel for the whole water plant. And they will be furnishing the main control panel, the RTUs, the PLCs, the HMI screens, and integrating those all together for water production staff to run the water plant. It will also provide 100% redundancy in the water plant controls. And the Brown contract will be in the form of monthly progress payments totaling $671,743. And it will be funded out of the 2023 water bond issue.
Any questions of Todd? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Has the city attorney reviewed this and all of the other contracts, that 5 that you mentioned? And is there a timeline included in the contract so that all of this is ready to go when you're ready to go live in the plant?
Correct. That's why the
Yeah.
main control panel, Director Garcia, will be about, they said about a year, about 52 weeks to get it. So when we want to put the plant online in November, December of 2025, we have a year to wait before we even get the control panel.
So, but that,
The Brown contract runs with the same general contractor's time frame.
okay, so that it will be, we won't be waiting on them.
No, no
They
ma'am.
have this as a priority too, and they've got them, I mean, this is in addition to what they already do for our SCADA, but,
This is not the on-call thing they do for all our different.
This is in addition to that, so
Correct.
they've got the adequate manpower to assign to this.
Yes. That's why we're doing it early.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
I'll just respond to Director Garcia. I have reviewed all of the contracts. These contracts are to run concurrent with one another, so there will not be any gaps, with the exception of what Todd just mentioned, 52 weeks to actually get the panel for this part of the work that will be done at the plant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is Resolution R23-113, a resolution awarding a bid to K-Jax Contractors, Inc. for Contract D of the Lake Ouachita Water Supply Project for the finished water transmission main in the amount of $1,415,000. Again, Todd.
Thank you. Contract D as in dog is the 24-inch ductile iron pipe that we're going to hang underneath Carpenter Dam Bridge. And it's about 1,000 feet long. And the KJAX was the low responsive bidder out of the 3 bids we received on May 8th. And as City Manager Bill Burrow mentioned, they're going to be compensated on the total price of $1,415,000. And it will come out of the 2023 Water Bond Fund. And just to mention, in your packet, I drew a little color diagram so you can see what all the different projects are. The green one over on the lower left is the existing contract A that KJAX did back in 2021. But the yellow, the blue, the orange, and the green are the 4 contracts that are going to make up our 24-inch transmission main, finished water.
Very good. Any further questions? Any questions? Director Garcia?
Just one I meant to ask on the prior one, but on that and these, does Chris approve the progress payments, or is it a combination of you and them?
Yeah, it comes through Chris first.
And-
So when a contractor sends an invoice, say for stored materials for pipe, the Chris inspector goes out there, makes sure the pipe's there before he signs off on it.
And then it comes to you, and you agree or have questions before it goes to Karen and Renee?
Right, in finance, correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I will also mention that all of these projects, 10, 11, 12, and 13, there's a June 26th pre-con meeting, pre-construction meeting that they'll have with staff, the engineers, and then from that point, they'll start kind of giving us a schedule of when those pipes are going to be laid. At the end of these 4 agreements that we're talking about, We will have all of our potable lines under contract, 13 miles.
Correct.
Next item is Resolution R-23-114, a resolution awarding a bid to Diamond Construction Company for the contract C, as in cat, of the large Lake Washita Water Supply Project for the finished water transmission main in the amount of $3,220,000. And again, Todd.
Thank you again. This contract C runs from the northern end of Carpenter Dam Bridge along Carpenter Dam Road and ties into our big water main basically at Broderick and Shady Grove Road. It's about 1.75 miles, 9,200 feet, and Diamond was the low responsive bidder of the 7 bids we received on May 8th. And their total bid price was $3,220,000 even, and it will be use the board-approved 2023 water bond funds.
Any questions on this item?
What size is that, Todd?
24-inch ductile iron pipe.
Thank you.
Next item is Resolution R-23-115, a resolution awarding a bid to Diamond Construction Company for contract B2 of the Lake Washita Water Supply Project for the finished water transmission main in the amount of $5,425,000. And again, Mr. Pillar.
Okay, this contract B2 is 19,600 feet long, 3.7 miles of 24-inch ductile iron pipe. And it starts on the south side of Carpenter Dam Bridge and runs down Carpenter Dam Road and gets on highway, follows Highway 290 to the south and to the west. And on your little map, it'll be the blue line on your map when you see it in your packet. Diamond Construction was the low responsive bidder with the 8 bids we received on May 8th. Their total bid price was $5,425,000. And again, it will come out of the board-approved 2023 water bond.
Any questions of Mr. Pillar on this item? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. When you're saying the 2023 water bond, just to clarify, are you referring to the $45 million bond that was, I guess, approved in December of '22?
Yeah, we didn't
take
we didn't get the funds until January 30th. Yeah,
Okay.
January 30th of this year.
And so these contract funds that are being requested, essentially all 9 through 13 are all coming from that bond?
Correct.
Okay. Were they factored in, again, prior to that bond
Yes, sir.
acquisition?
In fact, I'm proud to say that we had for these last 4 contracts, not the Brown integration contract, but B1, B2, C, and D, we had budgeted out of that $45 million, $24 million, and they came in at 16.5. That was a good day.
Very good. Any further questions?
Hearing none, we have Resolution R-23-116, a resolution awarding a bid to Diamond Construction Company for contract B1 of the Lake Washita Water Supply Project for the finished water transmission main in the amount of $6,476,000. And again, Mr. Pillar.
Okay. B1 picks up where B2 left off, and they meet in the middle. Basically, B1 contract goes from Lake Hamilton Bible Camp, 7 South Central Avenue. It runs 19,000 feet, 3.6 miles, till it butts up with B1, and it follows basically Mount Carmel Road and Highway 290 to the east. And Diamond Construction Company was the low responsive bidder of the 8 bids we received on May 8th. And their total bid price was $6,476,000. And again, will come out of that board-approved 2023 water bond.
Any questions on this resolution? Thank you.
Just want to let the board know, Bill and I were concerned about Diamond having this many contracts. They will have, what, you say, 9 crews operating?
3 clearing and grubbing, 3 pipe laying, 3 restoration,
All at the same time?
all running in parallel.
Very good. Thank you.
Next, we have a public hearing. Hold a public hearing on proposed taxi cab fare structure and adjustments, and City Clerk Carmen Morrissey will discuss this item.
Yes, you'll have before you on the agenda under new business an ordinance that amends the current taxi cab transportation code, including the fare structuring, and this will be the public hearing preceding that is required by law. I'll go into more detail under new business.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's item 17 on your agenda, right?
Yes, sir.
Next, we have Resolution R23-117, a resolution amending Resolution Number 10154 by authorizing an adjustment to the reimbursement of certain general fund expenditures from the American Rescue Plan Act funds and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Brewer's here to present this item.
The city previously authorized the transfer of American Rescue Plan Act funds to the general fund for the reimbursement of general fund salary and benefit expenditures in the amount of $6,739,870.91. The ARPA rules allow for the expenditure of these funds for any lawful government purpose. We propose to amend the funds to be transferred to include the following: general fund salaries and benefits of $2,218,387.57. Extra transfers to the police fund of $1,310,000. Extra transfers to the fire fund of $750,000. Transfers to the police fund of $2,002,916.65. And transfers to the fire fund of $1,500,833.35. Those four items total to $6,739,870.91. These funds will be restricted and would only be used after specific city board approval and budget amendment. This amendment will allow the total $6.7 million to be moved to the general fund in June.
Any questions on this resolution? Actually, it's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
Questions? Thank you.
Next, we have consider ordinance I'm sorry, that was a resolution.
That was a resolution.
Yeah.
I just see it.
Your first ordinance of the evening is ordinance 2311, an ordinance amending the zoning map and approving C2 General Business District zoning designation for .518 acres generally located at 1801 Albert Pike Road and for other purposes. And our Planning and Development Director, Kathy Selman, will present.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Dustin Higgins with Half Associates, representing the property owner, Robertson Family Trust. He's requesting a change from C4, General Regional Commercial Open Display District, to C2, General Business District. The property is at 1801 Albert Pike Road. It's approximately 1/2 acre. The reason for the request to change the zoning on this land, which is surrounded by developed commercial properties, is so that the setbacks will be consistent with an adjacent parcel that the applicant is hoping to develop or redevelop. The zoning map amendment implements the future land use plan map and adopted plan. The change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding commercial zoning and uses. The recommendation to Planning Commission was that they recommend to you to adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map as requested. They duly advertised their May 11th meeting. After considering the record and calling for testimony, Planning Commission by their 9-0 vote accepted staff report findings and recommendation to recommend that you adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map, designating the subject property C2 General Business District because that change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding commercial zoning and uses.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you.
Next item is ordinance 2312, an ordinance amending the zoning map and approving C4 Regional Commercial open display district zoning designation for 1.12 acres, generally located at 1810 Albert Pike Road, and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Selman.
Thank you. This application coincidentally is right across the street from the one we just talked about. This subject property is owned by applicant Fleury Commercial Properties. It's currently zoned to R3, low medium density residential, has a future land use plan map classification of residential medium high, and it's in Board of Directors District Number 3. The application states the following under existing use, landscape supply. This is a permitted use in the C4 zone district, but as you know, because I just told you, it is currently zoned R3. So the goal here is to make this a conforming use. The back lot currently and previously has been used for storage of materials, accessory to the landscape supply Hot Springs Sod Company.
Any questions of Ms. Selman?
And Planning Commission is recommending approval, 9-0, as it is compatible.
I have a question on the map, real quick.
Pulling it back up. Hold on.
Thank you. So the property we're looking at is not Albert Pike facing? It's behind Albert Pike, but it has an Albert Pike address?
Yes, because it has always been considered part of the business that does face Albert Pike.
Okay, so it's just, right now, that one address has, I'm assuming, 2 different zones in it, even though it's 2 different parcels?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have ordinance O-2313, an ordinance amending Article 3 taxi cabs of the Hot Springs Transportation Code, ordinance number 4571 as amended, by revising the taxi cab's fare structure, declaring an emergency, and for other purposes. And again, City Clerk Harmony Morrissey will present.
Thank you. All right. Arkansas Code annotated 2557-302 grants municipalities the exclusive right to regulate taxi cab operators. This includes the power to set rates charged for services. Arkansas law requires that the rates be reasonable and adequate to permit a fair, just, and reasonable return to the operator. Rates for taxicab services are subject to judicial review. The current taxicab rates were set over a decade ago in 2012. A general rate increase is needed immediately to support the current taxicab operation in the city of Hot Springs. The cost of operating taxicab services have increased substantially over the past decade, from fuel to insurance to employee cost. Spa City Cab Service is the city's only taxicab service, and it is struggling to remain operational. It is also important to note that there's a large segment of the population, certain elderly and disabled residents, who depend on taxi service as their sole mode of transportation to and from medical appointments, pharmacies, hospitals, grocers, etc. The owner of the taxi cab company here in Hot Springs, together with staff, presents a revised taxi cab fare structure. The new structure will be reviewed at the public hearing, as mentioned earlier, before the new business section part of the meeting on the 6th of June. There are no proposed changes in the way the rates are calculated. However, there are changes in the fares that would be charged. So I'm going to kind of go over this, but it does get a little bit confusing. The base fare, or drop charge, is the amount charged when the rider enters the taxi cab, regardless of what zone the rider's in. The proposal is to increase this base fare from $5 to $8. Then when the taxi begins moving to deliver the rider to the requested destination, for each zone or subzone crossed, a zone fare is charged. The proposal is to increase the zone fare from 75 cents to $1. You're going to see these new rates. The proposed rates are actually on your screen. Did I share those? Okay. Those are actually the proposed rates. The vast majority of taxi cab trips in and around Hot Springs are within the first 4 zones. However, when there's a taxi cab ride that originates or terminates in one of the further out zones, that being 5 through 12, then the code provides some protection for the taxi cab operator by giving a list of minimum fare amounts for those further out zones. The Hot Springs Code allows the taxi cab operator to charge the greater amount of the taxi cab rate as calculated by using the base fare plus adding that zone charge to get that total, and then compares it with the minimum fare zone rates that are listed on your map. Taxi cab operator is allowed to charge the greater of these two amounts. This is the same structure that has been in the Hot Springs Code since the rates were first adopted. However, the amount of those minimum charges for the zones in the chart do see an increase. For instance, the minimum charge for Zone 5 is proposed to go from $5 to $8, Zone 6 from $6 to $9, Zone 7 would be $7 to $11, Zone 8 would go from $8 to $12, Zone 9 would go from $9 to $14, Zone 10 would go from $10 to $15, Zone 11 would go from $11 to $17, and finally Zone 12 would go from $12 to $18. There are other charges that would be realized under the increased proposal, and those do include the fee for additional riders would go from $1.50 to $2. These are for riders over the age of 3. The wait time charge would be a minimum of $5 with a $1 per minute charge after 5 minutes. This is an increase over the current, which is $3 for every 5-minute period with an hourly charge of $36. There would no longer be an hourly charge under the proposed changes, just the $1 a minute. Another change that you will see reflected in the proposal is the terminology for special zones. There are 2 special zones that allow for taxi cabs to charge a set rate for a group traveling together. For example, if a group is leaving the Doubletree Hotel and traveling to Mid-America Science Museum, the taxi can charge a special fare rate that's a set amount per person. Currently, there's a special Zone 1, which includes fare zones 1 through 4 on your map, and a special Zone 2, which includes zones 5 through 12 on your map. Because both sets of zones use numerals, there is the proposal to change the special fare zones A to B instead of 1 to 2, because that gets confusing. The rate for the former Zone 1, which would be called Zone A, would increase from $5 to $8 per person, and the rate of former Zone 2 would now be called B, an increase from $6 to $10. I'm going to switch graphics. That map was on your screen, which reflected those, and now I'm sharing, and now I'm sharing the text of those rate changes that you see redlined. So you see what's in our current code and then those changes that would be made. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Mr. Lee Woods, who owns and operates the taxi cab service Spa City Cab, will be here at the meeting on the 6th to answer any questions from his point of view. But again, I know it's kind of confusing, but I'm happy to attempt to answer any questions you have.
What do you think the cost would be from a downtown hotel to Oaklawn Park? What would be the cost increase? You have any idea?
The cost increase probably, let's see, let me get back to my map. Is Oaklawn in Zone 2?
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably be an $8 charge.
$8 increase or an $8?
No, it would, the increase would be a $3 increase. Because it's going from 5 to 8.
Okay, thank you. Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Did the Transportation Advisory Committee already review this and have their recommendation?
No, ma'am, they actually have not reviewed this. Mr. Woods came to us with the proposal and needed it to be done. You'll notice that there is an emergency clause in this because he is struggling to stay open, and we're trying to support him in that. So rather than holding the public hearing at the TAC meeting, the Transportation Advisory Committee meeting, we wanted to go ahead and do it as soon as possible, and that's why we've moved the public hearing section to this particular meeting on the 6th to give the public an opportunity to be heard, but also to get it through as soon as possible.
And are the fees, rates, the only thing changing?
There are just a few of those changes that are essentially not substantive, that are corrections and typos and changing the names from 1 to 2 to A to B. The redlined version of the whole code section will be included in the packet, so you can see those, but there were some There were some small changes. There are some omissions that we were taking out things that did not seem to apply. There are a couple, for instance, on the special fare zones, there's a requirement right now in the code that the taxi cab have a sign saying where they're going and what that rate is. That's a little bit difficult in this day and age to change your signage on the vehicle itself. So we did remove things like that, but it does reflect that in the redlined copy of the code that'll be in your packet.
But it's required in the code for the vehicles used to be, are they inspected, or they're
Yes.
about them maintaining them operational?
Yes, this does not change anything on the operating. It really charges that fee structure. So that part remains untouched. That's not part of these amendments. This just goes to the rate structure.
And the reason I just got a complaint last week about having to wait at Oaklawn for an hour and a half for a taxi, and the driver was apologizing, but he was the only car in service.
And that's part of.
One car for everything that weekend.
And that's part of what Mr. Woods was sharing with us, is he's struggling to keep cars on the road. The rates are not enough to keep him in business, and so that's kind of why we wanted to do this and do the public hearing at the meeting with an emergency clause so that he could begin charging a little bit more, and so he would be able to have more drivers and more cars on the road.
Okay, so that'll
So
help address that.
Yes, ma'am, that should help.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions on this topic? This completes those action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday. Earlier this meeting, our city manager made comment about the consent agenda items relating to the water service, items 9 through 13, possibly be moved to new business, $17 million plus. Is that the direction of the board? Is that what you'd like?
So moved, yeah.
Okay, we got a second. Well, we don't have to vote, but we're all good with that. So we'll make those, item 9 will be the first item under new business, and we'll just go in order. This completes those decisions that we have to make today, and we'll adjourn, but stay close because we have a work session immediately following once we switch over. So, thank you all.